Where in the ever-loving hell am I? Is this even Earth? I looked around in stunned disbelief. Not only was I dressed in some elaborate old-fashioned fantasy getup, but I was lounging in a plush armchair in what looked like a sprawling, meticulously maintained estate, all ancient architecture and lush gardens. Then, a tidal wave of memories hit me, slamming into my brain with the force of a freight train. My eyes snapped open. This wasn't just any strange new place. This was a web novel world. Seriously? What the actual F? I just dropped a comment, calling the villain, who happened to share my name, a total simp for chasing after a girl who clearly wasn't interested. Did the universe really have to punish me by dumping me straight into his shoes? System? Hello? Are you in here? Come out, you coward. But whether the system was playing hard to get or just non-existent, I got nothing. Just the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant chirping of exotic birds. My name is Alex Stone, and I've been flung into the fantasy web novel I'd been devouring, inhabiting the body of the villain, also named Alex Stone. I was the sole legitimate heir of the Stone family, a prime example of a magical legacy kid. And this Alex, ugh, this guy, with all his family's prestige and resources, was apparently a complete love-struck moron. His entire existence revolved around the female lead, Chloe Sterling. Even after Chloe had decisively broken off their engagement, he continued to stalk and harass her. The story's climax for him, of course, was getting absolutely pummeled by the male lead and ending up a broken, pathetic mess. Seriously, audience, if you guys are out there, send help. I half expected some kind of live chat comments to pop up in my vision, offering advice or a way out of this hellscape. No such luck. Just then, one of the estate staff came to my side, informing me that the Sterling family delegation had arrived and Chloe Sterling was with them. She's here, I thought, a jolt going through me. She's here, and she's probably got that damn engagement contract with her. According to the novel's plot, Chloe was supposed to be here to definitively end the engagement. The original Alex would then lose his mind, spewing all sorts of demeaning insults, which would, in turn, drive Chloe straight into the arms of the male lead, sealing my fate. No way was I going to play that game. It was depressing enough being a transmigrator without a handy-dandy system. My only option was to agree to the breakup gracefully, then go back to being a rich magical heir, keep my distance from the drama magnet main characters, and live a long, luxurious, uneventful life. I hustled toward the main lounge. The moment I got to the doorway, I actually faltered. The atmosphere inside was anything but the tense, explosive scene I expected. My dad, bless his oblivious heart, was laughing it up with Chloe's parents, their coffee cups already topped off twice. Chloe sat a little apart, in a pale green, flowing gown. Her features were delicate, her expression serene. She looked remarkably sweet and composed. I pushed down my confusion, strode into the room, and looked directly at Chloe, skipping all pleasantries. Chloe, what brings you here today? Inside, I was practically begging her to just say the engagement. The sooner we ripped off this Band-Aid, the sooner I could start my blissful, drama-free existence. Unbeknownst to me, Chloe Sterling, too, was reeling. She'd found herself in this body, already en route to the Stone estate. When the original memories had flooded her brain, she'd realized that, yeah, the previous Chloe had totally been coming here to break things off. Gods above, she thought. All I did was rant online about how the female lead was an idiot, and how the villain, who loved only one person, was so much better than sharing a single male lead with a whole harem of women. Why did they have to shove me into her shoes? She'd wanted to claw at her hair, but then a realization had struck her, and her eyes had lit up. Well, if that's the case, then tough luck, original plot. I'm taking over. She'd made up her mind. Absolutely no messing with Jake Harrison, the male lead. Instead, she would throw herself into the arms of the deeply devoted villain. Her entire outlook had cleared in an instant. When she'd arrived at the Stone family estate, she'd greeted my dad and mom politely, then settled gracefully, sipping her tea, mentally preparing to meet this villain of hers. When she finally saw me, Chloe had actually faltered, a fleeting look of awe crossing her features. This villain was unbelievably handsome, with chiseled features, striking eyes, and a build that seemed sculpted from myth. His silken robes, rich with embroidery, only amplified his aristocratic aura and sharp good looks. He was even more distinguished than the novel had described. Why would anyone want to get entangled with Jake Harrison, that scumbag, and then have to compete with a bunch of other women for his attention? It would be so much better to marry into the Stone family. Plus, in the original story, this Alex was utterly devoted to her. As long as she avoided Jake and didn't actively oppose him, Alex could easily be redeemed. Then, the two of them could live a long, peaceful life, exploring magical arts and enjoying each other's company. What a perfect plan. She'd snap back to reality, a soft smile gracing her lips, her voice sweet as honey. Nothing serious, Alex. I just haven't seen you in ages, so I decided to drop by. My jaw nearly hit the floor. My brain sputtered to a halt. What the actual hell? Where was the breakup? Why was she staring at me with such intensely loving eyes, calling me Alex in that syrupy tone? I fixed her with a suspicious glare, my tone a bit probing. But everyone outside is saying you're here to break off the engagement. Chloe flashed a dazzling smile, the corners of her eyes crinkling into perfect crescents. Her voice was firm. Alex, you just said it yourself. They're rumors. They're not to be trusted. Not to be trusted, my ass. My gut churned. This woman was definitely playing a game. The Chloe Sterling in the novel would never have acted like this. As I was trying to figure out her angle, I watched Chloe suddenly drop her gaze, her voice taking on a hint of vulnerability, even a touch of sorrow. Could it be? Alex, are you the one who wants to break off the engagement? I suppose it's true. Given the Sterling family's current standing and my own limited abilities, I really don't deserve someone as brilliant as you. I stared blankly, a full-on WTF flashing in my mind, followed by a blaring internal alarm. Was this woman trying to play the innocent victim while simultaneously trying to get rid of me? This was way more ruthless than the original plot. In the novel, Chloe had clearly stated she was breaking the engagement to focus solely on her magical training. How had she become so? Sakura now? Chloe, meanwhile, was mentally patting herself on the back. Alex loves me so much, he'll be heartbroken to hear that. He'll only care about me more, and there's no way he'll be the one to suggest breaking off the engagement. This way, the pact is secured. As long as I avoid Jake later and don't get involved with him, Alex won't have a reason to target him, and naturally won't suffer a tragic end. We'll both live happily ever after. My old man, who'd always been keen on this match, slammed his hand on the table. His face darkened as he shot me a fierce glare. Nonsense. If you dare to even think about ending this engagement, son, I'll ground you so hard you won't walk for a month. Dad, you're so wrong. This woman is going to get your son killed. But I quickly waved a hand. Dad, no, how could I? I turned back to Chloe. The more I looked at her, the more I felt she was putting on an act. And a thought suddenly clicked in my head. Since she wanted to play coy, trying to have her cake and eat it too, I would deliberately not agree to break off the engagement. I'd irk her, get under her skin, and watch her true colors show. I stepped closer, reached out, and gently took her wrist, putting on my most heartfelt, sincere tone. Silly girl, I'm so incredibly fond of you. How could I ever break off our engagement? Don't let those silly rumors bother you. In my mind, I was already mentally fist-pumping, anticipating her disgusted reaction, her yanking her hand away, and her face twisting in annoyance as she finally blurted out the truth. Who would have thought? Chloe leaned into my embrace, her shoulders trembling ever so slightly, and she choked out, "That's wonderful, Alex. I knew you cared about me." I'd just been reveling in my own cleverness, but now I was completely dumbfounded again, my entire body stiffening. Was this female lead actually serious? She really didn't want to break off the engagement? The adults in the room, seeing this tender display, all broke into beaming smiles. They immediately gathered, excitedly discussing potential wedding dates, chattering back and forth, settling on one with shocking speed. I stood there, as if in a dream, my head buzzing, utterly bewildered. This felt too unreal, like something out of a bizarre fantasy. Once the elders had finalized the arrangements, Chloe's parents took her and made their excuses. After all, they weren't married yet. Having her stay overnight would be scandalous. Before leaving, Chloe turned back to me, her eyes full of a lingering reluctance, her voice soft and sweet. "Alex, I'll see you at Elysian Grove Academy." A shiver ran down my spine. I honestly couldn't reconcile this saccharine, manipulative girl with the cool, independent heroine from the novel. My doubts hadn't diminished one bit. I still felt something was profoundly off. In the original plot, Chloe had broken off the engagement to focus on her training, and not long after arriving at Elysian Grove, she'd pretty much instantly clicked with Jake. Was she playing me now, only to team up with Jake and publicly humiliate me once we got to the academy, ensuring my complete downfall? After all, doing something like that would definitely trigger Jake's protective hero instincts. In the days that followed, I lived in a haze, constantly racking my brain, cursing myself for not being smart enough to figure out what kind of elaborate scheme Chloe Sterling was cooking up. Days blurred into weeks, and soon it was time to head to Elysian Grove Academy. Stepping onto the academy grounds, looking at the elegant young women passing by, each one a vision of grace and charm, I couldn't help but feel a little thrill. There were so many beautiful women in this world. Once I finally got to the bottom of things with Chloe and broke off this ridiculous engagement, would I really have trouble finding someone new? There was a whole smorgasbord of possibilities just waiting for me. Chloe and I weren't assigned to the same residential tower, nor did we have the same mentor. But as newcomers to the academy, we had to go together to meet the headmaster for formal introductions. I just started chatting with a bright-eyed, pretty girl nearby, asking about academy life, and managed to charm her enough to make her eyes sparkle with a smile. It seemed like my future was finally looking up. But then a sudden chill prickled the back of my neck. I turned around and met Chloe's intense, unblinking stare. Her gaze sent a shiver straight through me. Before I could even open my mouth, Chloe took a step forward, her eyes glistening, her voice thick with fake sorrow. "Oh, I am so terribly sorry. I seem to have interrupted my fiancé and this lovely young lady's conversation." The girl I'd been talking to instantly gave me a strange look, sizing me up from head to toe, then quietly, slowly, backed away. Clearly, I'd just been branded with a big fat player label. I was so furious my jaw clenched. This woman wasn't just planning to humiliate me later. She was also trying to cut off my access to any other women. That was just beyond the pale. Was there no justice in this world? No basic human decency? Just as I was practically fuming, I heard someone call out Jake Harrison, not far away. The name immediately sent a jolt through me. Wasn't that the male lead? I looked up and, sure enough, saw a figure approaching. Chiseled features, an air of effortless charisma. It was indeed Jake Harrison, the male lead from the novel, and he just happened to be looking our way. An idea instantly sparked in my mind. I immediately reached out and wrapped an arm around Chloe's waist, my voice urgent and dripping with false affection. "I was just asking this lovely lady if she'd seen you. You don't know how worried I was when I arrived and couldn't find you right away." Inside, I was practically cackling. The male lead was here. Let's see how she kept up her little act now. This would surely expose her true colors. "Come on, quick, push me away." Then stammer out some awkward explanation to Jake, so everyone can see that you're the one who's trying to ditch me, not the other way around. To my absolute shock, Chloe leaned into me and hugged me back, tightening her grip. When she looked up at me, her eyes were swimming with what looked like genuine emotion, and her voice was so soft, it felt like it could melt butter. "Oh, Alex, you're so good to me, always thinking of me." She breathed an internal sigh of relief. Now that Jake has seen with his own eyes that I'm completely devoted, he shouldn't bother me anymore. This way, I can completely avoid him and live a peaceful life with Alex. My mind was reeling. Holy cow, the female lead was hugging and openly flirting with me, the villain, right in front of the male lead. Even when our respective mentors came to lead us away, she still shot me a longing glance, completely ignoring Jake Harrison standing nearby. A week later, I suddenly had a brilliant idea. I decided I'd secretly follow Chloe. The second she even thought about talking to Jake alone, I'd leap out and confront her. This way, I could turn the tables, not only clarify my stance, but also show Jake my absolute resolve. Then, I could finally be a peaceful, drama-free, magical heir. Mwahaha! Alex, what's got you so cheerful? Just as I was lost in my own smug, internal monologue, a voice yanked me back to reality. I focused my eyes, and who else would it be but Chloe Sterling? "Aren't you supposed to be chasing after Jake? What are you doing here?" Chloe had originally intended to play a little hard to get, but seeing that 7 days had passed and Alex hadn't come to find her, she'd started to panic. The thought of some other vixen trying to ensnare her Alex made her abandon all pretense of reserve, and she rushed to Crimson Peak Tower. My expression immediately shifted. I plastered on a forced smile. "Oh, I was just thinking of coming to find you. That's what made me so happy. I missed you even more, Alex, so I came a step earlier." Chloe took my hand, looking into my eyes, her gaze brimming with affection. My mouth twitched, almost imperceptibly. She's so damn good at flirting. Doesn't she know who she's dealing with? In the following days, Chloe practically lived at my Crimson Peak Tower, constantly seeking me out. Whenever we met, she'd always grab my hand, her attitude incredibly affectionate. The scene I had so vividly envisioned, her conspiring with Jake to publicly humiliate me, never once materialized. Her persistence and genuine closeness gradually made me let down some of my guard. My suspicions faded a bit. Once I even gave her some utterly inexpensive trinkets, and she treasured them for days, wearing them constantly. Jake Harrison, the male lead, never once came to cause any trouble. Chloe and I gradually became the talk of Elysian Grove Academy, the campus's power couple. But deep down, I still felt a profound unease. I couldn't understand why Chloe had changed so drastically. All the other plot lines were following the novel's script perfectly, yet she was the sole, perplexing exception. Soon, the date for the annual Spirit Quest was approaching. I suddenly remembered the novel had heavily detailed the events of this particular quest. Originally, Jake and Chloe had only a slight mutual attraction, but the randomized entry points into the Forbidden Wilds would separate them. The isolated Chloe would be attacked by a fearsome arcane beast, and at the critical moment, Jake would arrive, saving her, and that's when Chloe would completely fall head over heels for him. Recalling this plot, if it still played out, and Chloe truly fell for Jake, it should have been a good thing for me. But my heart felt distinctly uncomfortable. Then a new, horrifying possibility suddenly occurred to me. Could it be that the cosmic scriptwriters, or whatever forces govern this world, sensed I wasn't interested in her? And to course correct the plot, they made her like me first, so that once I completely fell for her, then the breakup would happen, leaving me utterly heartbroken. My mood went from uneasy to utterly numb. If my guess was correct, then the universe was indeed playing a cruel joke on me. If I were to see Chloe getting close to Jake now, I knew I would definitely feel something awful twist in my gut. Meanwhile, across the academy, "Master, could you please give me just a few more spell scrolls and potions?" Chloe Sterling was currently clinging to her female mentor, Master Evelyn Vance's arm, batting her eyelashes. "It's just a routine spirit quest, child. Why are you being so overly cautious?" Master Vance said, a hint of amusement in her voice. Then a thought struck her, and she winked. "You wouldn't be planning to share half of those with your little sweetheart, would you?" Chloe's cheeks flushed a delicate pink, but she didn't deny it. All right, you win. Here, take some extra." Master Vance produced a generous handful of additional spell scrolls and potent elixirs, including a few higher-grade ones. Chloe practically beamed as she tucked them away. Master Vance watched, shaking her head with a sigh. "Honestly, Chloe, you're not going on a trial. You're clearly going on a romantic getaway." At the entrance to the Forbidden Wilds, Chloe gently hugged me, burying her head against my chest. She looked up, her eyes full of a lingering sadness. "Alex, you have to find me as quickly as possible once we're inside." "I will." I ruffled her hair. The small, silver hairpin she wore was the cheap trinket I had given her weeks ago. Soon, the entrance to the Forbidden Wilds shimmered open, and students began to enter one after another. I stepped into the shimmering portal and immediately used my comm crystal to contact Chloe, asking for her location. Then, I rushed over at the fastest possible speed. My thought was simple. If I got there first, Jake wouldn't have a chance to play hero. As I approached the vicinity of her reported coordinates, I suddenly heard the guttural roar of an arcane beast. My heart immediately sank. No way. Has Jake already started his big rescue scene? I gritted my teeth, abandoning any thought of slowing down to catch my breath, and sprinted even harder. Chloe, I could already see her figure, and on the other side, another figure was rushing over, also clearly intent on saving her. It was Jake Harrison, of course, and he was moving a bit faster than me. However, just then, Chloe suddenly pulled out a handful of glowing spell scrolls, flinging them all at the arcane beast. Crackle. Boom. The combined effects of various powerful spells erupted like a pyrotechnic display, instantly tearing the arcane beast limb from limb. This incredibly extravagant, overwhelming display made Jake Harrison, who'd almost reached the scene, stare in dumbfounded shock. But I didn't care about him. I ran straight to Chloe. Alex. Chloe saw me, her eyes suddenly welling up. She launched herself into my arms, her voice choked with what sounded like tears. The arcane beast was so scary. Boo. You or the arcane beast, which is scarier? I was caught between laughter and disbelief, but I still patted her back, comforting her. It's okay. I'm here now. Jake Harrison, standing on the other side, saw this scene and awkwardly rubbed his nose. Why did I suddenly feel so unnecessary? And also, you had that level of spell scrolls and didn't use them sooner? He watched Chloe whimpering dramatically in my arms, clearly feeling like he couldn't bear to watch, and quickly turned to leave. I had actually been keeping a close eye on Jake Harrison. Seeing him retreat directly, I inexplicably breathed a sigh of relief. After exiting the Forbidden Wilds, life returned to a bizarre new normal. Chloe would come to find me every couple of days, and we often went out to practice our magic together. One afternoon, I was waiting for Chloe at our usual spot near the main fountain. Excuse me, senior student. I heard a voice and turned around, confused. Before me stood a woman of astonishing beauty and an aura that commanded attention. She wore a fiery red gown, embroidered with dark gold intertwined lotus patterns. The hem of her skirt swayed with each step, seemingly flickering with internal fire as she moved, exuding an air of intimidating nobility. You are. I racked my brain several times, but I didn't recall any such woman among Elysian Grove students. I am Serena Vance, a visiting scholar from Moonhaven Academy. I'm here touring your esteemed academy, and seem to have gotten a bit lost. I was wondering if you, senior student, might have a moment to show me around? The woman smiled, her eyes bright and intelligent. I froze. Serena Vance from Moonhaven Academy. Wasn't this another female lead from the original novel? The one who was supposed to be a rival? She shouldn't have any connection to me, Alex Stone. And at this point in the timeline, she shouldn't even be visiting Elysian Grove. Alex, just as I was trying to figure out how to subtly decline without being rude, a figure had already rushed over. It was Chloe Sterling. Who are you? Chloe stepped in front of me, like a protective mother bear guarding her cub, eyeing Serena Vance with undisguised suspicion. As a modern woman from the 21st century, she wasn't about to play this secretly sad and reserved card. Her Alex was hers to protect, and no other vixen was going to get her claws into him. A flicker of surprise crossed Serena Vance's eyes. Then she offered an apologetic smile. My apologies, senior student. Since you are occupied, I won't disturb you further. Farewell. Then, she turned and left without hesitation. Alex, who is she? Chloe suddenly changed her tone, her voice sweet and a little whiny. I have no idea, I replied, smoothly wrapping my arm around her slender waist. She just asked me for directions, and I was about to refuse when you showed up. I looked into her eyes with a clear conscience. Our eyes met. Chloe beamed, then stood on tiptoes to give me a quick, sweet kiss. On our wedding day, I donned my ceremonial red robes, rode a magnificent winged beast, and led a grand procession to pick up my bride. All the while, I was still half expecting Jake Harrison to burst out and try to snatch Chloe away. By now, both our parents, our academy mentors, and all our fellow students were here. If a bride napping happened now, I felt like I would actually go insane. But even after we'd completed the binding ceremony, toasted with friends and family, and finally retreated to our bridal chamber, looking at Chloe sitting on the bed, her face hidden by a shimmering red veil, I still couldn't quite believe it. This was actually happening. I walked up and gently lifted the red veil, revealing the exquisitely made-up, stunningly beautiful woman beneath. After a long moment of hesitation, I finally couldn't resist. I blurted out, why didn't I want to break off the engagement back then? Logically, you should have been here to end things with me. Chloe froze, her eyes widening in surprise. she countered. Why would I break off the engagement? And how do you know I should have broken it off? We stared at each other for a long moment. Then suddenly, in unison, we both spoke. It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground. The words hung in the air, and we both froze simultaneously. Then, in perfect harmony, we exclaimed, You're a transmigrator too? I was completely floored. I quickly pressed, Do you have a system? Did you come over with any cheat abilities? Chloe shook her head. No, I didn't get anything. Just the memories of the original story. What about you? Did you get a system? Me neither. I shook my head, then couldn't help but ask. Then why didn't you get closer to Jake? Following him would have guaranteed you a smooth ride to the top, with all the resources and connections you could ever want. Chloe rolled her eyes, a look of disdain crossing her face. Who wants to be with him? He'd have a whole parade of women fawning all over him, and I'd be stuck competing with all the other heroines. I just want someone who genuinely loves me, not someone who loves us. She deliberately emphasized the us, clearly referring to the other female characters entangled with the male lead in the original book. So that's it, I murmured, a wave of relief washing over me. As long as it wasn't the cosmic scriptwriters playing mind games. Only then did I truly let go of all my anxieties, all my lingering doubts vanishing. I reached out and pulled her into a warm hug, laughing playfully. No waities. Maybe after we get a little more intimate, the system will activate. We might even get a husband and wife dual system. Chloe leaned into my embrace, unable to stop herself from laughing, her eyes now filled with a genuine, profound peace. She hadn't expected her villainous husband to be a fellow countryman. Now they could truly live a good, happy life in this magical world. On a distant mountain peak, Serena Vance watched the brightly lit, joyous stone estate, her eyes filled with confusion. Strange, my previous timeline wasn't like this. Could this Chloe Sterling also have been reborn? I was hoping to get to know this Alex Stone, who died for love in my previous life, to see what kind of man he truly was. She murmured, then a strange, calculating glint appeared in her beautiful eyes. Two is always better than crowd. This Alex Stone isn't like that Jake Harrison. He won't actively flirt with a bunch of other women. If this Chloe Sterling dares to object, I'll threaten her with what happened in my previous timeline. I'll let Alex know how she tormented him to his death. I'm sure she'll compromise. She flashed a mischievous, almost sinister smile and vanished from the spot, completely unaware that she had guessed wrong, that Chloe Sterling's true secret was being a transmigrator, not a reborn individual. But it wasn't her fault. She couldn't possibly understand this kind of transmigration. Meanwhile, Jake Harrison, who was deep in meditation, suddenly opened his eyes, his face etched with confusion. He couldn't place it, but he just felt utterly off, an inexplicable agitation preventing him from focusing on his training. It was as if something vital had been plucked from his very essence, leaving an unsettling void in his heart. What in blazes? He immediately broke his meditation and stepped out of his private chamber. Boom! Suddenly, a blinding bolt of pure arcane lightning flashed down, striking Jake Harrison and reducing him to a pile of shimmering dust. A voice, ethereal and distant, echoed through the air. Destiny anomaly eliminated. Mission complete. The end.